Well, welcome to today's version of the Empower Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Napierski. I'm sitting here together with Don Lovelace, 18-year veteran. Don, it's hard to say. I mean, you have a little gray there like I do, but 18 years
crazy
at the company, Don. And we've asked you to be on the podcast. No, we've had a lot of leaders, social influencers, different people on. We don't as much have management, and we've had Dr. Joe Chang, but as far as, so I think you might even be the first region president we've had on the podcast, and there's obviously a reason for that, Don. So we'll introduce Don. I want to say some nice things about Don because he's an amazing partner, a visionary, somebody who has just the courage that it takes to lead. But Don, you're also a father of 4 girls. You've got a new son, Kobe, who just got back from South Africa, the best traveler on the planet.
Ambitious to take him on a 17-hour flight, but
and yet, and yet he
was great,
pretty well.
Yeah, he was
right?
Great. He did awesome. Yeah.
So congratulations on that. But Don, it's good to be talking with you today, and the reason behind all of this is the continuous success of Latin America, in spite of perhaps, and a lot of people, we don't remember this when we talk about the success of Latin America, the tenacity of Latin America, especially given the environment, the macro environment in which many of our Latin American markets operate, whether it's Argentina, Colombia, Mexico, macroeconomically, politically, regulatorily, very challenging environments. And yet this region just continues to inspire us, and we've had multiple leaders on the podcast. So we want to kind of dive into that, but I think before we get into the market itself, Don, love to know a little bit more about your background and what kind of propels you in this business, because you're a pretty distinct leader here within the Nu Skin family.
No, I appreciate that. And thanks for the opportunity. This is awesome. So I've been at Nu Skin for 18 years. I actually started in the call center 18 years ago. It's funny. I had just finished living in Paraguay for 2 years on a religious mission. And a friend of mine texted me, he said, "Hey, if you want to keep learning Spanish, come work with me at Nu Skin. The call center is great. You're going to love it." So I applied, got hired, started a 2-week training, and my friend quit before I finished the 2-week training.
Okay.
He was gone.
Okay.
And so I came here kind of through some chance circumstances, but just connected right away with the company. So I've been here for this 18 years. Worked as an account manager for 2 years, worked as a director of sales with the U.S. market for 5. I've had actually the last 9 years working in Latin America in this role, and it's been awesome. I love Nu Skin. I love what we're about as a company, and it's hard to be around our leaders, to be around our corporate leadership, our distributor leadership, and not improve yourself as well. Like, I feel like as I've come into Nu Skin, it's been great for me to learn some best practices. I remember sitting in meetings with Nathan Ricks talking about his power hour of, every day he's up reading and he's working out and he's taking some time to meditate and reflect, and learning that early in my career and just applying those principles. And so, I mean, I love all things related to building a process that's going to help you achieve what you want to achieve. And so every morning I'm the type that wakes up at 4:45, get my workout in, read, study, lay out my day. And that way I can then be home and present with my kids before I come into work and recharge that way, and then work and go all in on work. And then after work, I'm all in on family. It's I've always got a million things going, but it's something that I think is a natural output of surrounding yourself with people like what we have at Nu Skin. Yeah,
the environment absolutely compels us to be better. It is funny. I will tell you the time when we were evaluating who should lead the region of Latin America. At the time, from what I recall, Latin America had already been through 2 pretty significant resets. Right? Because Mexico was what, the third market internationally at the company? In 94. And so we're talking about like literally decades of ups and downs in this business. And I remember the discussion around, well, who can we send down there, because it was in some pretty difficult shape at the time. And I was kind of relatively new coming back into my seat out of Japan. And somebody brought up your name, and it kept coming up over and over again. And I found I was like, I knew you, but I didn't know you. But the thing that I heard over and over and over again is Don cares about our leaders. Like, Don cares more about our leaders. Now, fast forward to how many years has it been that you've been in this seat?
9 in Latin America, yeah.
but in the actual president role of
Yeah, they moved to a president role a few years ago.
yeah, and since that time, what I've heard over and over again is how much you actually do care about the people. So it's not just the environment. There's something about the way that you lead from a just like a leading with love type of approach of really caring about the people, and I think that's critical.
Yeah, I think with this business, it's a people business, right? And the cool part about being in sales, because I've been in sales my whole career with New Skin, is you get to work with people, you understand what makes them tick, but then you meet their families, you see what drives them. One thing that I'm convinced of in our role as corporate employees at New Skin is our interests are aligned with the field 99% of the time.
Yeah.
It's not like, corporate has an agenda that we have to push. It's like, okay, if we understand what our leaders' needs are, they want us to grow. They want to grow. They want us to be successful. They want to be successful. And so often it's just coming together and figuring out how we best accomplish what they need. Because the same way the business works, where they grow by helping others grow, our region grows by empowering our leaders to be successful. And so it's having a big vision of what we need to do that you build together with them. It's aligning resources to that vision. And it's just letting them go and do this thing, right? Like, it's not us necessarily forcing things onto them. When you care about them, when you want them to be successful, they feel it. They know that our interests are aligned. And so when I go to them and say, hey, we got to make a shift here, they're not questioning what my intention is, because they know that we trust each other. We built this over years of working together. And when you're committed to someone else's success, I think people feel that and they respond well to that. And then we can collaborate and find solutions, because the thing with Latin America is things change on a dime.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, and this is not to pick on any of my friends in other markets, I remember sitting in a meeting one time with another market where they were talking through this challenge, and there was a meeting called because they had to change one product in a kit because they were running out of it. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, we change this 10 times a week because we have to, right? Because there's some import challenge or there's some regulation change, and you just got to be nimble and figure it out. But when it's built on love, it's built on trust, and it's aligning what we want to accomplish, we can move quickly. You eliminate the distrust and you just move forward because you know that your interests are aligned.
Well, that's I think I'm trying to gather some of these empowerment principles that we're talking about. Oh, we dropped a plant.
Sorry about that.
No, all good. As you're going through that and you're talking about visioning, you're talking about resourcing, you're talking about working through resiliency, working through challenges that invariably come, all of those things. Why don't we frame this? Because I think the story, a lot of our leaders know this around the globe, but it may not know the details of the last few years of Latin America. And so maybe I can set it up, and then I want you to just take what's gone on there, because as you and I know, we were sitting in a room a few years ago, post-COVID. Business was challenging. Macros were very challenging. I remember inflation in Argentina for like the third year in a row had been like 60 or 80% year on year.
It's triple digits.
Triple digits even. And the true question was, from everyone around the table, our board of directors, our management team, is Latin America. We know that the entrepreneurial marketplace is enormous. People are willing to work. Yeah. The question is the environment feasibly tenable for people to work? And there were some pretty heavy discussions, and it ultimately came down to a point where I said, listen, I got to go talk to the team and talk to Don. And so we were on our way to Dubai, and you and I had spoken beforehand, and you said, and you had a vision. Well, I'll have you talk about that, because I think that was central to the whole thing. You also had some killer leaders, resilient leaders, never say die. I think of that poster of the bird that's, eating a rabbit or something, and then the rabbit's choking the bird so they can't swallow it. It says never say die. So we get to Dubai on our Team Elite trip, and we sit down with this great group of leaders who, by the way, had been through an extremely difficult 2 or 3 year period at the macro level. And I remember having to deliver the news to them that something has to change. That we either kind of change or die, that we need to truly, and I was expecting an enormous blowback I'll be honest. I was expecting to be run out of the room with pitchforks by these leaders. What I was super impressed at the leadership level and the market leadership level was not one of them started yelling. Nobody started crying. Nobody started throwing things. They accepted that we understand, to your point of alignment, we understand that the company's in a really bad position, and we have to do something different. And I remember getting up and saying, okay, well, Don has shared some thoughts, and you immediately stood up, and the first thing you did that I recall was you laid out a $500 million vision.
Yeah.
Like what is it? The big vision, small problems, small vision, big problems.
Yeah, for sure.
It was an immediate, this is why I believe, and then there's a path forward. And I left the room.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was the same day or if it was the following day, but we got back together with those leaders. And by the way, I saw them throughout the event.
Yeah.
And they were all in great moods. Yeah. And none of them were coming up telling me, right, pleading, which I've seen that before. Please don't, give us another shot. Nobody said that. They were happy. They were excited. I remember sitting with Sol Brio out on camels in the middle of the desert, and she was all excited about it. Huh. And so I'm like, what happened? And then we went into that room, and you as a leadership team together laid out the $500 million plan. And I remember you guys coming out and saying, if we have one product, we have one product. If we have to make comp plan changes, we'll make comp plan changes. If we have to make operational changes, we'll make them. But take us through that process of how you went from and step back to those 2 or 3 years of real challenges.
Yeah.
What was the process, and what can we take from that, regardless of where our businesses are around the world?
Yeah, no, it's been a crazy adventure getting LATAM to where it's at today, and it's been cool to see the outcome of, we've been a top growing region multiple years in a row, and really starting to crank. We just finished the South Africa trip and having so many leaders there and filling the stage with
Platinum elite leaders. I think it was like 90% or something.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was cool to see, but it's crazy to think back on where we were. I mean, I don't envy your position at all in terms of having to justify to a board of directors why we're in a country like Argentina at the time with triple-digit inflation. We couldn't get product into the country because of different import controls they'd put in place. We couldn't get cash out of the country. And so at that point, it becomes a force for good project, right? I mean, we have to be in the business of making money, and leaders understand that too. But what we have in Latin America is the most amazing leadership. And so as we start working through this together, one thing that I've been so impressed with is the mindset that my leaders have in being able to take an issue and quickly find the opportunity in it. And the delta between receiving news and turning into action is so small for these
crazy.
Leaders. It's like a second reaction, a reflex to be able to take action on it. And so what we did with Latin America is we're looking at this and we're understanding, guys, we have to change our model if this is going to work at all, because the existing model hasn't been working. And so when I look at what was going on, we had the crisis that created the need to do something different for half our markets. For the other half of our markets, we had to create the need out of an opportunity cost, which I'll talk about in a second. But with Argentina specifically, we sat down with leaders and said, okay, here are our issues. The plan that we've been doing isn't working. We have to do something different for us to be profitable, for us to have a viable business that you guys can thrive within. If imports are limited, we got to be able to make something here locally, right? And so one thing that I've seen throughout my life, both personally and then in the business, is there's kind of 3 components to this. First, you have to have a crystal clear vision of what your desired outcome is. I work with a leader, her name is Patty Acosta. She talks about having la foto perfecta, the perfect picture, crystallized as to what the ideal reality is that you're living in. That could be in your personal life, that could be in your business. What does that look like? And with leaders, we define that as our $500 million business. At $500 million, we know how much commissions we're paying. We're really empowering people. We're changing lives. Okay, great. We have the vision of what we want to do. We also have these limitations that we can't import. We can't do this stuff. Okay, so then the next step back is you reverse engineer it and you say, okay, here's the vision. What are our dependencies? What does our business need to look like for us to have this outcome? And what can we put in place to make that happen? And then underneath all of that, you have to create the systems and align the resources, and everything has to reinforce those outcomes that leads to the final perfect image. And so for Argentina, that conversation became, okay, we can't make the devices here because our business is heavily focused in beauty devices, and it's heavily focused in another product was collagen at the time. We said, well, we could import the raw ingredients here. We can make this here. Can we build a business around this? And so we started a vision with these constraints in place. What can we do to accomplish this and make this successful? And so we built an entire plan around collagen. Literally collagen. Yeah. We're assuming things don't change. Let's build it with collagen. Can we make it profitable? We partnered with finance. We partnered with operations, finding the right supplier. And we built a whole plan around it because we had a vision of what we want to do. And we had the leadership in place, which the hardest part in my mind in this business is finding the right leaders to help drive this thing. But we already had them. So we just had to put the plan in place. And so we got Argentina on board with this. We turned sales back on shortly after that trip because we had to pause operations fully and reset everything to build to this model. And within 3 months, we were stocking out of products because everyone was dialed in and focused on this. The month we turned it back on, Argentina was the highest sponsoring market in the world. And they continued to build from there to where we took our business from zero. It was literally market 50 of Nu Skin in terms of revenue because we had to shut it down, to where they're a top 6 market in the world. And it started with collagen. And now we've added some products back in Argentina. And that's been going great. They're still growing. But the thing that's exciting about it is collagen is still 70% of our revenue in Argentina. I mean, going deep and focus on something creates an alignment around everything that drives it. And so you had the crisis in Argentina that required the growth. What do we do in Mexico? What do we do in Colombia? What do we do in Peru where, it's not as crisis driven? It's the same principle. You have to create a vision still of what's possible. You look at Mexico and the economics of the market there, it's one of the top 6 direct sales markets in the world. And at the time that we were defining this plan, we were doing less than $1 million, $1.5 million a month in revenue there, which we have so much more potential than that. And so instead of talking about we have to fix this or we shut down, it was, guys, we have amazing products. We have an amazing compensation plan. What's not working for us to drive to 500 million? How do we create the perfect image of what we want to do? What does our business look like? What does our portfolio look like? What do our incentives look like? And you work backwards and you build the system. And through all of that, we've got now 2.5 years of amazing growth, and we're just getting started. Yeah. We've accelerated our time clock. We're hoping to get to 500 million. And this is a forward-looking statement, but our goal is to get there by 2030, which would make us one of the largest regions that Nu Skin has. And that's something that our leaders are totally aligned around because they understand that we are committed to making it happen on the corporate side. They're committed to making it happen there. Our interests are aligned and we're working towards it. But that same principle that happened with LATAM, it applies in our lives. It applies in every aspect of the business. It's just have the clear vision, build the plan of dependencies, align resources to it, and then build the processes to where it's not dependent on your motivation to do it. It's in place. It's happening.
I think it's so, there's so many applicable lessons to life as you talk through that. I mean, one, I think there's nothing more motivating than a crisis to align, unite, activate. So to your point of, hey, there was a crisis in Argentina, the leaders there aligned and activated around that simple plan. Being able to then kind of take that recipe and go to the other markets and have those leaders do the exact same thing. I think that's a huge takeaway. The other side of it that you mentioned that I think is so fascinating and so fascinatingly interesting that this business can literally be built with one single product. And I think that's critical for all of us to remember because we can all name kind of one-hit wonder companies. Apple with the iPhone, although they have a couple of other products, their iPhone is 80+% of their entire business. I mean, when you look at the ecosystem of the iPhone. So now is collagen an iPhone? Well, maybe not, but is it a billion-dollar business globally? Absolutely has that potential. The demand is there, to your point. The market's there. So I think finding that secret, simple element of success and then aligning people around that. We've seen that example happen at a micro level, whether it's LumaSpa.io here in the US, right? Where leaders just jumped on Lumi.io and have driven that model. Galvanic Spa, about 15 years ago did the same thing, a single product that aligned universally around the globe. So finding that simple, I think, success makes a ton of sense as well. And then of course what you're talking about with the vision and to Patty's point, right? Having your own personal vision and how that aligns and all of that. So no, I think that's all amazing as you go. Don, do you so talk with us a little bit, because some of the things that you're talking around having that personal vision, we've interviewed 3 or 4 leaders on this podcast from Latin America. And I will say, just generally speaking, like Gonza and Vito are they have some of the elements of kind of the vision with the very practical and tactical plans. Some of the other leaders I've interviewed are very emotionally motivated. Just, Daniela Flores, Joanna Stachnik, these leaders that are just very motivated through almost an emotional, even like spiritual level. How do you balance? And we all know Latin Americans are very well known for that kind of balance of the emotion, the spirit. We see it in football, right?
For sure.
With the practical and tactical. How do you approach? Well, first, what do you think? Is that a secret? Is that a secret sauce in this business to have the balance? And then if so, how do you balance the heart and the mind that way from the management standpoint?
No, that's a great question and great insight. I mean, there is no more passionate group in this business than our Latin America leaders. In fact, I was joking during the recognition night that if things ever got quiet, I just had to shout out to Latin America and the room would instantly fill up with noise. So one thing that I think ties in well to this, so you've got the vision, you're building everything to match that. How do you get momentum going? Because it's great. We could set the vision at $2 trillion, right? But until action happens, it doesn't really matter, right? And so one thing with our business specifically is, and I've talked a little bit about this with you in the past, in my mind, growth in this business is a lot like building a fire. We live in Utah. I love going camping with my kids too. I was a girl dad only for, 13 years. And I love making my girls do things that I like to. So we'll go camping. I'll take them to sports things. Like, I love helping them learn how to be just tough, strong girls. Like, that's something that we've talked a lot about. But one thing I've taught them recently was building a fire. We went camping last summer. We were building a fire. And while we were doing it, I was talking them through the concept, because you can't just throw a huge log and light a match and it goes. Like, you have to have understanding of what the framework needs to be. You start with kindling, you add the larger sticks, and then you get the fire cranking, and then the logs go. And then once the fire is going, you just keep making sure that there's enough fuel for it to keep burning. But you can't start with the big, you have to start with the small. And so within the business, when we're turning it back on in Argentina, we had to start with, okay, what's the simple way that people get started so that they can make money fast? Because Nu Skin's known for being a leadership company, and we're always going to be a leadership company. It's who we are. That's our value. But in Latin America, you can't say, hey, work really hard because in a few years you're going to make a lot of money. You have needs today that you have to fulfill. And so we structured our pricing. We structured everything to where you can come in, sell it at a good price, and make good retail margin. Latin America, where price is so important, is the number one retailing market at Nu Skin in terms of percentage. And so by setting a price to where people could sell and make money, that was kind of like the kindling. And anyone can duplicate quickly when they know, come in, sell this, get this, great. Then we connect it to the next thing, which was earn these incentives, earn these free product incentives. And then from there, earn a success trip. And then before they know it, they've advanced in leadership. And so in terms of going to your question of how we get momentum going and how the hearts and minds connect, the first is you need a plan that people can calculate numbers around. And we have some leaders that are very numerically driven, as you know, in Latin America, and they're great partners and they help us frame the plan the right way. But where does the emotion comes in? The emotion comes in from there's nothing more contagious than success. And the moment you start helping people achieve success and you start highlighting those success stories, people learn and they want to be a part of it. The thing that I think our leaders in LATAM do maybe better than anyone is they're so intentional with the culture they're creating because they're very intentional with, you know what, I want to work with this kind of people. I want to work with people who have big visions, have big dreams. And when you start seeing people accomplish those things, it's so incredibly motivating. I was speaking of Joanna, she's got Juani and Dani on her team who are just amazing leaders out of Argentina. Their parents, they have before doing New Skin, didn't have passports, hadn't really been on a plane. And now they are traveling the world, going on flights, but not just going on flights, they're taking their 2 kids with them. And so I've seen them, in our success trip in Paris. I've seen them on our different success trips all around the world. And the emotional motivation that comes into play when you see families fulfilling these dreams. We had another one who's a leader out of a spot in Argentina. They're on the Giordano's team, where when we announced the Paris success trip, it was so motivating for them, because we had a leader there who saw we were going to Paris, and she grew up where her dad, the whole time growing up, had said, someday I'm going to take you to Paris. Someday I'm going to take you to Paris. And life happened. It didn't work out. And you talked about Latin Americans being so willing to work. What they need is opportunity. And it never happened for him to take his daughter to Paris. And then we announced the trip, and she said, I'm going to earn this trip. She qualified for the trip, and she took her dad as a guest to Paris. And just what a cool opportunity to be able to empower people that way, to give them that. And so you talk about how the numbers, how the heart connects. It's through that, because you have to have a good plan in place that makes sense, where people come in and make money, have success. But then you see the fruits of those success because you come to love these people. You come to meet their families. One thing LATAM does so well is it's all a big family and everyone works together. And it becomes so motivating to see people achieving those things that they couldn't have had. And there's been some cool moments, Ryan, where, we just had our kickoff in Argentina. We had like 2,000 people in this room. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, if we didn't do this the right way a couple years ago, none of this would be happening, and you see all the families, all the lives that live better because we got together at the corporate side with our top leaders and made a plan. That's empowerment. And so you put the plan in place, you got the number side, you got the financial side, and then the heart comes because you care about the people and you share those cool stories. And it's been cool to see.
Well, maybe let's dive a little bit further into the heart side of things, because, around the world, as we look at different leadership groups, different businesses, different markets, like every market goes through ups and downs. Businesses go through ups and downs. And it's very easy to have the motivation and the momentum when things are on the up. What's interesting to me about Latin America, because there have been 2 or 3 like downs, and those downs are tough. They're not 10% downs. They're 90% downs, right? And yet these leaders, the resiliency is enormous. So maybe talk a little bit about what do you think drives the resiliency in those down times, and what is it? What's the secret sauce that enables these leaders to build, rebuild, rebuild, rebuild? Like what's there? Where does that come from?
Yeah, a couple thoughts. I think the first thing is, in my mind, it goes back to having the perfect image, the perfect picture in your mind of what you want, and having a clear vision of what that looks like. Because in reality, how you get there could be several different paths that lead you to that outcome. And it's the moment that something happens, there's a downturn, import stop, or whatever the case is, the image didn't change. You still have the same vision. You just need to figure out a different way of how you're going to get there, right? And so if you're crystal clear with where you want to be, great. Those things that happen in life just inform what route you're taking and which one you're not taking. But you don't change the vision of what you want to do. You just find a different way to get there. And so I think our leaders are so good at understanding that these things that come up, it's hard in the moment. There's a moment where you're like, oh my gosh, in Latin America, it's really common that it's consumers in Latin America use installments to pay for things. It's very common. And if all of a sudden the rates go up and what they have to pay goes up significantly, they might have an emotional response at first. But then the leaders are so good at then reconnecting with, okay, if that's the case, then we're going to sell this where you don't need installments. They're going to find a path. You close the door, they're busting out through the wall, and they're going to find a path forward. And so that's one thing I really admire about them. The other thing that I'd say is motivation is so inconsistent. Motivation comes and goes. Your energy comes and goes. And if you haven't built things with the right processes and systems to where it's less dependent on what your motivation is, and it's more dependent on what your process is. I mean, this is in my mind, you're a big reader. That's something I've learned from you. It's something I learned from Nathan. I read every day. And some of my favorites, I mean, I look at Atomic Habits, for example, which I know everyone talks about Atomic Habits, but it talks about the concept of every day you're voting for the person you want to be with the actions you take, right? You're not waking up at 5 a.m. and saying, do I feel like waking up at 5? Like, you do it because you built a process and you built a system, and that's just something you do automatically. I think whether or not imports are happening, whether or not interest rates are where they should be, if you've got the process in place that every day I'm going to be talking to people, every day I'm going to be leading my team, every day I'm going to be figuring this out, you don't have to make the decision every day. You made it one time, but you have a process that makes that self-fulfilling. And so I'd say between having that clear vision and having the right processes, I mean, James Clear talks about how you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
Yeah.
You have to have the right systems in place that are going to drive it. And so at the corporate side, I look at that and I say, okay, what are our programs, our incentives? What do we have that leaders can plug into that give them the outcome that we want that's going to lead to growth? Yeah. It's the same concept in life. What are your habits that you're developing every single day to where you don't have to think about it? You have a clear vision what you want, and these habits you've built are taking you there without your motivation needing to be there every single morning. Right?
Yeah, it's. I mean, as you're talking, and I was going to bring this up earlier but you're covering a few different issues at the time. It's interesting to me that, so we all know as human beings that consistency is the answer to anything you want to achieve in life, any success, any accomplishment, any outcome. It's the consistency, right? It's the consistency of showing up. It's the consistency of the wake up time, the reading, the habits that you form, the habit stacking, all the stuff that we read about. And we apply that. Whether it's in fitness, I remember in South Africa, right? You and I, we had those wake up calls, and we were getting up at 5 a.m. to hit those, and then 4 a.m. And then there was one that was we had to be there at 4, and I'm down at the gym, and all of a sudden Don walks in. It's 3:12 a.m. and we're getting our workout in because that's what you do.
Right.
And I feel like in our business, what's so interesting to me, and I remember hearing one of our top leaders talking about that every day, no matter what it's just like breathing is essential for life, or eating is essential for life, working out is essential for fitness. Talking to people about the business is essential to success in this business. It's a daily habit, and it's a daily action. And I think that like staying aligned to that same, whether the ups and downs come and go, but if you're committed, to your point, to those systems, the growth will happen, right? It's an economic, it's a mathematical formula that the number of people that you talk to, and by the way, the more that you talk to, the better you get at honing in, and every no leads to more yeses, and refining your spiel and your pitch and your close and all those things. But if people would just commit to talking to people every day about their business, I promise the growth just happens.
100%.
And I think that's one of the things I appreciate about our Latin America leadership is they never seem to lose sight of that fundamental, foundational thing. And then they have this electric energy collectively, the collective they, where they just build cultures that people are attracted to because they bring that energy and momentum. So it's talking to people every day, building the culture that people want to be a part of. It almost becomes a self-fulfilling engine. And I feel like that's something that everywhere else in the world, or every other business that's not succeeding, if we get all the way back to that fundamental, how many people am I talking today about the business? And it's not this week or this month. It's literally a daily activity, just like eating, breathing, sleeping, reading, working out. That habit of talking to people is absolutely critical to success.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think one thing that I really admire about the leaders I work with as well is it's not, hey, I did those things so I could be successful, and now I don't need to do those things anymore. My leaders are the most engaged at setting the tone of, how can I expect my team to be talking to people if I'm not talking to people? I have to lead by example and be doing this myself. It's funny. At that event I just mentioned in Argentina that we did, we finished the event. We had an expo that afternoon. Do you know who the first people were at the tables of the expo setting up? It was my team elites who were out there, who had just spoken on stage. They're out there with their teams getting everything set up. And it's just, you lead by example, right? The same things that got you there will help you continue to grow if you keep those things daily front of mind. If you're not growing in this business, you're dying.
Yeah.
You have to continue to grow. You have to continue to do those same things. And that's something that I've seen that I've really admired in those leaders.
Okay, Don. So 2 last questions before we wrap up.
Yeah.
I want to know what's next for Latin America, because listen, I we talked down in South Africa with the leaders. Everyone's time is coming.
Yeah.
Right? Business inherently plateaus.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Like nobody's ever on a perpetual growth rate, right? Even NVIDIA that's on this amazing streak at some point hits a plateau, right? At some point it's going to hit a downturn. So what's next in Latin America? And while you're answering that though, in the back of your head, I want you to be thinking, we haven't done this before. I would love for you, because we've spoken in English and most of your leaders speak in English. I would love for you to prep and deliver a message in this camera to your Latin America leaders of where you see this business going and what you see empowerment meaning to us. So just put that in the back, but let's talk about what's next, and then let's get into what's your message to our leaders down there.
If you look at what we've done so far on our vision, we've more than 2x our business over the last couple of years, which is exciting. We're excited for the progress we've seen.
Third year in a row, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
right?
We continue to 2x it.
2x it, yeah.
So we've got a goal to get to 500 million. If we continue on this track, we could be there in 2 or 3 years if we continue to 2x year on year, which is a lot, right? And so what we're looking at is, okay, we understand that there's been challenges in the past that have impacted us, and there's things we can't control, import stuff like that. How do we build the business the right way so that even understand that things that we can't control can happen? How we built it strong enough to where we can make this thing successful, right? And so that's one thing that we're always thinking about is how do we continue to refine the model so that it is sustainable and it can continue to grow. But where are we going from here? Honestly, if I look at what we've done it with tremendous focus. I mentioned collagen still being 70+% in Argentina. If you look at our 5 markets, between collagen and LumiSpa, that represents more than 60% of our sales in each of the 5 markets, which is amazing. There's tremendous focus. You don't grow by just doing a million things because we've done this. We talked about this just recently in a meeting we had. How do we continue to go deeper down that path with focus? And the expansion isn't into a brand new segment. It's something that is aligned with what's already been successful for us. And so for LumiSpa, we know that beauty devices are working great. Great. How can we expand the LumiSpa experience and capture more market share? We understand that collagen's been great. Awesome. How does collagen connect to wellness and weight loss and things like that are a direct connection to what's been working? And so from a product side, we're very crystal clear on driving a product strategy that's reinforcing what's been working for us. We also understand that the dynamics in Latin America are different than other places in the world. In some of our countries, average income in a given year is $6,000-$7,000, right? And so how do we build a business with premium products in a market like that? You have to build it the right way. You have to understand that, okay, how can we keep doing what's been working, but find a way to offer some products in the same category at a price point that people can sell, they can make money and have success and grow into the more premium products that we have. And so we've had a big focus on new skin within reach, which has been helping us grow as well in Latin America. So our product strategy is crystal clear on expanding what's been working, but keeping that focus. And our success happens when we're helping people make money and grow. And so all of our incentives are aligned to helping people earn money early and connecting that to our leadership plan, which has been our driving force for 40 years as a company. And so we're doubling down on what's been working, expanding slightly with our product offering, with our price points to find the right things. But if something's working, it's continuing to do what's working and don't change for the sake of change.
That's right.
You keep driving what's working and we keep focused, right? The thing that's great is even with all of this growth that we've had the last couple of years, our best market of Argentina, we've got less than 4% market share. Yeah. Our market of Peru, which Peru has been percentage-wise the fastest growing market in the world of new skin. It is grown. It is 3x in the last year and a half, which is amazing to see. But even in Peru, we've got less than 1% market share. Mexico got less than 1% market share. So part of what we're doing is, guys, this is amazing. Let's continue to build this, but just know we're just scratching the surface of what the runway is. Like, why would we change anything when what we're doing right now is driving this success? It's just finding more leaders that want to be a part of this And to your point, if you built the system the right way, it starts to attract people that want to be a part of this too. And so we're doubling down on what's been working, and we've got big plans to get to 500
I love it.
quickly.
Okay, Don, so we're going to give you a couple minutes. Just listen in to the team. This is your camera right there. Like, what's the message of empowerment that you want to give to our Latin American leaders in Spanish?
All right, and you tell me how the Spanish comes across.
I'll try to. I won't know what you're saying, but I just want to hear this. Yeah.
Amigos, bueno, ha sido increíble ver lo que nosotros hemos logrado los últimos 3 años en Latinoamérica y saber que llevamos 3 años consecutivos como la región de mayor crecimiento. Pero el mundo necesita lo que Nuskin ofrece. La gente quiere verse mejor, quiere sentirse mejor, quiere tener una oportunidad de lograr la vida que siempre han buscado. Algo que a mí me encanta que Nuskin ofrece es que nosotros ofrecemos oportunidades a personas que están dispuestos a trabajar fuerte, trabajar de una forma ética y ayudar a los demás para cumplir con sus metas. Es impresionante ver lo que hemos logrado, pero al darnos cuenta que hemos tocado una pequeña porción de nuestro potencial, eso debería de motivarnos un montón para saber que, bueno, el éxito genera más éxito. El éxito debería de generar mucha confianza que vamos por el camino correcto. Entonces, los últimos 2 años y medio nos enseñan que somos capaces del éxito y somos capaces de más. Qué lindo contar con los mejores líderes del mundo en Nuskin y saber que estamos empoderando a las personas para vivir las vidas que siempre han soñado. Y LATAM recién está comenzando pronto. Nuestro presidente de la empresa va a estar hablando en español con ustedes porque esa es la región que va a impulsar el crecimiento de los próximos años de Nuskin.
That sounded pretty good. Listen, I took 2 years of Spanish in high school, and I the only thing I thought you said was "living la vida loca."
That's right.
Was that in there?
That was a big part.
Blanco or David? Was that it? Was that what I did? I get that?
You nailed it. That was great. That was great.
No, Don, like truly and sincerely, like you're such a good man. You're such an inspirational leader inside the company, and I love how I see the team, that your leadership, and how much they adore you because you adore them. And as you said at the beginning, this is a people business, and you understand that. These leaders understand that. I absolutely believe that Latin America has the passion and the resilience. You know, what is it? What's her name? The grit. Duckworth talks about. She talks about perseverance, basically grit, right? Of having that. But the passion and perseverance that she talks about is the secret of not only Latin America, but every successful leader around the globe. And I think this is absolutely central to Latin America's success. It's absolutely central to every single leader in this business's success. And it's absolutely central to any success on this planet. You have to have the passion. You have to have perseverance because the problems will come and you can't let them deter. And I think you guys are doing amazing things down there, taking Nuskin to the world. So thanks for being on the podcast. One challenge to our team as we close this out is we want this podcast forwarded all over the place throughout Latin America. I don't know if we can get this the Spanish translation hooked up to this thing, but we want this to go everywhere because everyone around the world needs to see what's going on in Latin America, needs to feel the passion, needs to feel the perseverance and what you guys have overcome, and it will inspire the world to just do more. So thanks for being on it.
Thank you. We're excited.
Thanks, everybody, and we'll get this podcast posted soon. See ya.